Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here. Hi there, this is Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance, where our business is the success of your business. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, facilitator, and your host of the Elevate Business podcast. The Elevate Business podcast is a journey of discovery fueled by the curiosity to genuinely understand what makes people tick when it comes to their professional path, choices made, and the personal characteristics that drive performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately success. The Elevate Business podcast is here to promote the enormous contributions of small and medium-sized businesses around the world by exploring the actions that make a workplace successful, the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of an organization, and how we build whole person performance from the ground up. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, growing our learning edges, and honoring our passions with a special guest who has elevated their business, overcome obstacles, and inspires others to do the same. So glad you're here. Hi, and a warm welcome to episode number 10 of the Elevate Business podcast. I'm your host, Ange McCabe, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Marc, global coach, facilitator, and speaker. Marc believes in curiosity and potential in leadership around the world. He also has deep roots in giving back to our communities through Just Giver 4PD, Ride to Survive, the Rotary, RILA, and ICF nonprofit community of practice. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you, Ange. Pleasure to be here.
So glad you're here. So tell us about yourself, your journey, and a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's this could take a long time when you start talking about the journey, and it's really, I think, probably only the last little while I've sort of transitioned. Instead of a journey, it's more of a quest, and it's really about connecting with. And I feel very blessed to connect with the leaders around the world through the work we do. A lot of coaching work, a lot of leadership development along the way. And in terms of the journey itself, it's really deep rooted within the family that I have. My parents were a great influence on me in terms of giving back through minor sports. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of picked up that baton and carried it through and actually started coaching community sports and giving back when I was 14 years old. I just started getting into that piece around what it was like to, what's interesting, now we say in service to others, mm-hmm. But at the time I was just like, I loved being in that position of having the opportunities to give back while also still participating in community sports, giving back and just sort of playing in the sandbox with younger, developing, just showing kids how to have fun and enjoy the moments they have. And it's been with me ever since. I've taken on leadership roles in careers and also within my teaching background, doing different things with students and helping them transition and make better choices. So it's been an exciting journey, and it's not over. And I often tell people, you never get there. You never arrive. As long as you bring that level of curiosity and passion for what you do, it stays with you forever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Those are powerful words. And so when you talk about switching from a journey to a quest, what was it that brought about that epiphany for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think when I you look at some of the things you do and you kind of go, And it was really that point where I recognized some of the language I was using, and some colleagues and even some of my best friends pointed out, going, you're really on a quest, not a journey. It's, how do you make a difference, both to the community, to the world globally? Mm-hmm. And as I say, it really started to surface when I started to reflect back on the connections I had and what I was learning from working with people around the globe, and listening to so many similar stories around leadership and the challenges, and how do we do that globally? Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, you know what? I want to make a difference, not just in my own backyard, but I really want to make a difference on a global scale. And how do I do that? And this was really sort of that turned into that quest, going, you know what? I've got a mandate here. And it's time to own this mandate. And it's like, giddy up and let's go. Let's get on with this. And let's have some fun with this, but let's explore, let's keep learning. And how do we make a difference? How do we impact all those different factors and the people that we connect with?
Exactly. And so, not to put definition around your words here, Marc, but just curious, was that the sole thought that kind of pushed you into the entrepreneurship realm and opening your own? Or were there other factors that you've, thought that this is what you should do?
Yeah, it's interesting, that sort of entrepreneurship pieces. I've always loved the creativity piece, and love creating things, whether it's working with others or it's creating facilitation to meet what the clients want. I love to sort of have the freedom to play. I love that playfulness that you get from creativity. And quite often I found I was, in some organizations, is that sort of spontaneity and creativity is, you can't get outside that little box that's created for you. So I looked at that and I went, you know what is it that I want to do? And can I do it here? Or is it best to do it on my own and really just go all in and make that jump, make that leap? And that's what I decided to do. It was like, okay, I've done all these things over the years. You know what? You got this. Like, you got it. And let's just do it and own it and jump in. And I'm loving every minute of it. The freedom to be creative, play with other ideas, connect with people on those higher levels of how they see. And I think that's where the coaching piece comes in, because whether it's coaching or whether it's connecting through conversations, there's always that, if you want to say, that coach approach to the curiosity, which you bring up some questions and you create a pause. And I almost turn on my happy dance music when I create a pause, when somebody sort of stops in their tracks to think about what we talked about. I really get excited, because that's that shift in their thinking that it's landed, it's resonated, and now we can move somewhere. We can really excel some of these ideas and thoughts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what are you most proud of?
I love my kids. I'm so proud of both of my kids. They're incredible people. I'm, proud dad moment with, my daughter is an RN in critical care. She's currently working, she works with those COVID patients. She's excelled extremely well at school and is very passionate about her work. And she brings that piece to her work, where I know her supervisors have said to me, the patients love her, because she seems to take the time to listen to what they need and brings a level of compassion. And as a parent, when you hear that, you kind of go, yes, You know, these are the people in the world we try and, and we want those people in healthcare for sure. And there is so many, like my daughter's not the only one in healthcare like that, but it's, as a parent, you're so proud of it. And my son, of course, chased his dream in sports and has moved on from that. But, just to watch both of those kids follow their passions, they've taught me a lot about, follow your heart. Follow what you want to do and chase your dream.
It's so funny how our children are our biggest teachers in some circumstances, whether it be reflecting about ourselves, back to ourselves, or bringing upon us epiphanies like chasing your dreams. That's beautiful. On the flip side, what's been your biggest learning?
Yeah, that's I don't know anything. I think that would be it. I've got so much to go through, and I think with all the fields, and I think this is what we're currently going through with the uncertainty that we're facing. I think it's such a wonderful opportunity in terms of learning of what we are truly capable of, and how we manage ourselves within that. Mm-hmm. How do we bring that the sort of, what are the opportunities, or what's the flex we can create to actually make a difference with what's going on? And, that learning of how do we step away from the negativity piece that drains us to how do we get excited about what might lie ahead and how we can sort of reconfigure, redesign. I know some people say pivot. I hear that word a lot, but it's sort of how do we reconstruct what it is that we're capable of doing. And I get excited about that. Mm-hmm. In terms of, when you think about the biggest learning, I think of, I took a program and I just love the work by Judith Glazier on conversational intelligence. And, the thought of how we connect and how we communicate over the years, we're so good at telling people what to do. And one of the premises is, we need to take the time to understand and listen versus telling people what to do. And it's really shifted with the integration of that work, learning to watch leadership, embrace that not framework, but that the thoughts of stepping away from telling people what to do to understanding how they see things at a richer level to allow them to own their stuff in the workplace. Huge transformations with, bringing that idea forward. And so I think in terms of learning, that's been one of the greatest learnings and the gifts I've been able to bring forward to leadership is that work around conversational intelligence and how we connect at the human level. And that's a lot of, it just brings so much joy to my world when I see people embracing, but also shifting the people around them and really attaching to, wow, that was something I did. Yeah, it was how you showed up. That was so cool. Yeah.
And that resonates with me and can see that there's some deep learning and experiences there for you, Marc, because really and truly, when it comes to our communication, it's a subfacet of our emotional intelligence, right? And it's so important to show up. It's so important for our analytical thinkers out there in your experiences. What has been the actual tangibles that you've seen come out of making sure that there's higher levels of communication and human connectivity in the workplace?
Yeah, great question. The analytical people, and I think of friends of mine that are engineers, and I think of them and having conversations and actually doing some work with some engineers. I was in a room with engineers. There was, I think, 20, 30 of them. We were going through more of a coach approach. And it was all like, what's the process? What's the steps? Well, I just wanted the steps to go through, and we know that the conversations come about. It's that circular, it's like reflecting back, coming back, movement. There's lots of movement in, it's like that dance we talk about is just dancing in the conversations. And the greatest challenge for the engineers, and they laugh about it going, oh, caught myself, and letting go of that there is actually a straight formula for it, but there's a different way to approach it. So talk to them about, what if you were in a lab? What if you're doing physics or chemistry in your engineering class? What's the premise of doing that experiment? It's to discover. So when you go through that, it's what is the openness required to look at all the different ways to solve that issue? And for many engineers, it's how do we solve this? So for me, it's bring that openness that they would bring to that solution seeking. What are the things at play here? How do we translate that into actual conversations versus here's the linear piece of how this happens? And it seemed to work. We had lots of giggles. They caught themselves many times. They caught each other jokingly around it. But it's a different way, and understanding how, for me, it's like, who did I need to be for them? That was the real important piece. If you want to say a learning for me was continually asking with all these different groups is, who am I in this? Who do I need to be in this story per se? And see where I could fit in alignment with their thinking.
And I'm hearing a lot of what you're identifying with is forward focusing. So going deep in identifying and partnering with people and professionals at the level that they need you to, and then identifying those problems and helping them to realize what their resolve is. That's a really positive approach, which I totally enjoy when it comes to the coach approach. When it comes to looking at your own business and entrepreneurship, it's a bit of a roller coaster, right? It's like 2 paces forward, 5 paces back, 5 paces forward, 3 paces back. So where you already have that lens of forward focusing and looking at the positivity, how do you deploy that for yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have that forward mindset for sure. Like I love having that, and what are the opportunities? And you can get caught up in that. It's just like an opportunity-aholic type of, like you're just, it's like that big shiny object syndrome, right? Like, woohoo, here we go. Another one. Yeah. And I've surrounded myself with friends and colleagues that sort of, dial it in. Let's take a look, and how do we move this forward, or how do we move it? And, using different strategies in terms of, you're right, there is a roller coaster that happens. And I will say 2020 has been just a crazy roller coaster. And like many, I questioned myself at times. The last quarter here is where I want it to be in terms of the work that I'm capable of doing, the work that I'm stepping into is, and so reassessing, but also being very careful and cautious of self-judgment and getting out of my own head and staying true to who I am and what I believe in. And there's a place where I think we leave the moment to think too far ahead or question what's behind us. And I found when I shifted to what's most important right now, how am I in this moment addressing what needs to be addressed, and because this is the only piece I can change. Because, just like our conversation 2 minutes ago, we left that moment. Like, this is right now. And so that part of what am I doing? Where's this taking me? And what I found was this was an amazing opportunity for me to dig into some other resources. And I thought, okay, how am I going to grow? How am I going to, let's use the time to really ramp up my own learning. So I'm really excited because I just got a book in about coaching for equity and this whole piece around inclusiveness, equity. and is just, and I'm so excited to dig into it. So it's just another, but hopefully I can bring that forward with the idea of bringing it forward with clients as well. And just becoming more educated myself when I'm sitting across from leaders and things, sharing their own stories.
There's a lot in that. There's a lot in that answer. I almost have to replay this to digest it a little bit further, Mark. But what I'm hearing is that focusing on the now is the most important thing that we can do to still our thoughts of doubt or anxiousness about where we're going.
Yeah.
And ensuring that we are continuously learning as leaders, because it's a privilege. And then as we're learning, asking ourselves the question of, what can I give back? Give back to my community, or give back to my clients, give back to my peers, or my colleagues. Okay.
Yeah. I wish I could say it that articulate. Well done.
Thank you. For that makes me curious as to, with that mindset, what keeps you going? What can is there one thing that motivates you, or is it a whole bunch of things, or?
I think it's a lot of things. I absolutely get motivated by the leaders or people that follow their heart. Just like I was saying about my kids, just being inspired by watching them and learning from them what it is to follow your dream. It just seems when we're young, we're allowed to be creative. We're encouraged to follow our dreams. Then we step into that next phase of quite often going to university, and we get, we lose some of that because of, the restraints. And it's reclaiming that inspiration. I love, it's so rewarding when clients will make a phone call, or I'll get a text going, hey, just want to give you an update. This is what happened after that conversation. And it's just like, all right, pump up the music. It's happy time. I'm just so proud of, and so proud and happy for clients when they step into things. I love to, some people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually an introvert. I enjoy the time that I take and I walk my dog, and I get inspiration from being either on my bike, seeing the beauty that we get, or the smells that we can have. Climbing up a mountain on a bike, you actually can smell the different topography levels on your bike, and you can smell the different tree lines as you're climbing. The only thing you might hear is your own breath from breathing from climbing and riding your bike. But you can smell the different tree lines. And for me, that's a place of peace and reflection. But I'm inspired by it, by what nature provides for it. I'll take my dog on long walks or out in hikes where we just kind of disappear. And I'm inspired by looking at images or different things that create images or metaphors, analogies for me that I can incorporate into my work as well. So there's a lot of things that inspire me. Absolutely. Yeah.
And what has influenced you in the area of leadership specifically?
Well, I've had some wonderful mentors over the years. I'm very blessed, and I'd be afraid to actually list them all because I know I'm going to miss some really good ones. But those people display different characteristics that I really truly embraced. And a lot of it was, when I look back and I think about it right now, is who they were as at the human level.
Okay.
And how they came across with how they communicated. And they all had their own styles and, different requirements at different points. But it was that the humanness of the conversations or the direction, because I know in some cases I was actually working for them, and I know what I felt like as an employee. And I always thought, man, if I'm ever in that position, this is how I want everybody working for me to feel. And so I really, I've always tried to turn things inward, going, how do I feel? Because that's how I want everybody else to feel. through all this process.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. When you're talking, a lot of times what I'm hearing is that there's undertones of performance. What does the word performance mean to you?
Ooh, well, coming from a high performance sport context, it's coming from that high performance sport. It's people want to stand on the podium and people want to perform. If I think of the arts, people want to perform on stage, that performance piece. And performance is a process. It really is. For me, when I think of performance, I think of people going through a process of self-exploration of what they're truly capable of. What is it that their potential need, and as a coach or as somebody, whether it's in the business community, how do we draw out or how do we create an environment where that true potential can just excel? Mm-hmm. So performance for me is meeting the expectations of the individual. Like, what do they see themselves capable of doing? Mm-hmm. And how do I support them in achieving that within the context of where they want to go?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for you, do you sit down on a quarterly basis or an annual basis or fiscal basis, and do you write down like the goals of what you aspire to achieve? Or for you, is it, a bit of reflection and then projection as to where you want to go?
I do a lot of reflective practice. So I believe in journals, keeping notes. I won't tell you, at my feet, I've got a whole row of journals and books, the little notebooks and journals that you have from over the years, and just reflect back to them and look at the learning and look at the pathways of those things. And quarterly, yes, especially this year, I've, more than any other year, just that quarterly piece of what are the goals now, based on there's still the uncertainty that's out there, is what are my personal objectives? What are my goals, or what are my touch points that I want to chase down? And what do I want that to look like for me? Because it's like, what are the choices for me? It's what are those choices I need to make that are in my control? And I've looked at things, sort of, what are those things that are predictable, that I know is predictable, that I can anchor to, and then create some things outside of those predictable opportunities or predictable things within our current reality.
That makes sense, certainly. And for you, what do you want to achieve?
Wow, you're asking some great questions. What do I want to achieve? I want to bring humanity back to how we connect as at the human level. Like, I want our conversations to be that human piece of where we listen, where we respect, where we connect, and bring a curiosity to our conversations. It's not about me, it's about people's story. And I want people to feel comfortable sharing their story. And for me, if I can shift some of those conversations to be more aware, bring them more to the human level, where people feel like they have value and meaning to what they do, then I'll be a pretty happy camper in the end. I will be very, very happy if that's, and I'm not going to say I'm going to change the world by it by any means, but I want to change and sort of, if you want to say, influence the opportunities that I get provided to make that difference.
Those are large influences to aspire to. I think that's wonderful. What comes up for me in all of this, Marc, is, and I think that it's around education. That's my assumption here. But I'd like to understand from your lens, when it comes to the human connection and partnering that with corporate objectives and the busyness that we have, even when we are remote, of that day-to-day hustle and bustle and getting things done operationally, where's that crossroad? How do we go about ensuring that there's still that human connection, but we're meeting the bottom line, especially in these challenging times?
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting, as you say, it's an interesting dilemma to do that. And what I've done with challenge some leaders is take a look at when, not only when they are most productive, but start to become more, if you want to say, that mastery journey of self. Be more in tuned with what are the signals within yourself telling you in regards to where the energy is, where you can excel, and also being aware of when you need to take that 5-minute pause and being okay with it. I'll give, just as an example, it was and you talked about learning earlier, it was a massive learning with my own coach, Allison Hendren at the time. And I wrestled with, I mentioned the bike earlier on, and I, people are working in offices, and here I am, an entrepreneur, and I'm going, you know what? It's nice outside. I'm stuck on this thinking I'm going to go for a bike ride. And I always felt guilty going, what if somebody, people are going to go, doesn't that guy work? He should be working. He's out riding his bike, all those other kind of things playing in my head. And I had a conversation with Allison because the creative part of me needs to be outside in nature or a full wall of, flip charts, whiteboard. And Allison actually asked me, she said, what would happen if you gave yourself permission that's where you needed to be to find the answers that you're searching for? And once I accepted the fact that, you know what, that's where I need to be in that moment, to come back and actually be productive, to be in that place where things are just going to flow. Mm-hmm. And so those pieces, and you think about the dilemma that's going there, but how many people have permission to take that step? How many people in the corporate have permission to take the pause, to just reboot, recharge, or you know what, I'm going to go for a run, or even just a walk around the block, to what is it that they individually need to do that will meet the criteria and help them be more productive. Mm-hmm. And having those conversations with staff versus mandatory things. Again, hearing from the people, hearing from the people you lead. And, I've shared that story with some of the leaders, and they go, that makes so much sense. And it's just a personal journey. And the difference it made in my attitude towards being on my bike, because I got, I just ramped up the creativity to a completely different level because I was comfortable. I wasn't questioning and feeling guilty about being out there, walking the dog, or being out there in those moments. And I really would challenge, the corporate world to take a look at how do you create those moments, and how valuable is the pause for that reflection, or that part that works for some of the people that you're leading.
My HR cap has kind of popped on here, Mark, in the sense that you really sparked something for me. In the corporate world, what I've seen is that oftentimes there might be programs in the HR world, is what we call it. So we develop wellness or work-life programs. Mm-hmm. That creates almost a contract with your employees or expectations. And there's still judgment wrapped around that, because you have your team members that feel like they have to put in 60 hours a week, or the projects demand it for whatever reason. And then you have your team members that are punching the clock, and anywhere's in between. And we all know that that's part of the makeup of corporate world. But what if, though, to your point, organizations with leadership had conversations about what it looks like to take a pause, so that there's a collective agreement across the team, across the management group and leadership, that this is some of the things that we need. It's not written in stone. It can move. We still have the expectations of getting work done and hitting our goals and objectives, but this is okay to do this. So if you see Ange going for a run at 2:00 in the afternoon, she doesn't have to carry that guilt card with her on that run and it make it null and void for her. Rather, she can do that, and what I'm hearing from you, and be in her highest place of creativity because she's burning off some excess energy or working through a frustration or just thinking and pausing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally, I am so on board when, with that idea. And when you think about it, what I'm hearing in there is the value of understanding the dynamics or the roles within the team.
Yes.
Like the smaller team within a bigger team within a bigger team.
Correct.
And what are the individual roles? And you brought, to your point earlier, what do you do with the analytics or the linear thinkers that may, get things done? Or some people just have an eye, there's more comfortable in, say being in a cubicle. Some people are brilliant being in a cubicle and then shut themselves off and they get things done. Whereas others, just the nature of their role increases some of the time that it takes to do things. So the acceptance of the individual roles within a team, instead of going, oh, they're leaving earlier, they're punching the clock, it's going, but there's a different level of efficiency within what they do. And here's some of the other things. Mm-hmm. So it's the acceptance of the different roles we play. And for me, it's how aligned they are with the organizational objectives and vision. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All the players, so to speak. Exactly. And from a high performance team, we know that it takes a lot of different individuals to be successful in a sport team environment. They can't all be the same. So the flexibility of how do we create that environment, that's where the creativity and the acceptance. And I love your choice of the words like, what does it mean to take a pause? And that may be the most important question to ask is, what does a pause mean to the different members within the group?
Exactly. So that gives them an opportunity for voice and choice. Mm-hmm. And it also voids the tendencies to still pass judgment. And I think you said it very diplomatically, Marc, in the sense that within power teams, there's different levels of efficiency, there's different roles, and having appreciation for them for what I would dub as a GG, or the greater good, right? The greater good of the objectives of the organization. Amazing.
Yeah. And great choice of words, greater good. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it is, because it is the greater good.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. For you, when it comes, you talk a lot about discovery and pausing and curiosity. So when it comes to your next steps for who you show up as a leader and for your business, how do you go about doing that?
Well, I have 3 words that it's interesting. I have 3 words that I created some documents to share with some leaders, and I know different versions of it, and I've hung around it, and it surfaced when I was asked to, in 30 seconds or less, speak to a group about coaching. Mm-hmm. Because they were going through a coach education program, and in 30 seconds or less, and I went, okay. And so it's be, do, and create.
Okay.
Just 3 words. And it really is, who do I need to be moving forward? So for me, it's being mindful, curious, all those kind of things. What do I need to do? Which is, what are the questions I need to ask myself, right? What's the inner voice? What am I listening to in terms of my inner voice? And what am I trying to create? As a result of this, what am I creating? Mm-hmm. Is it a change in where I'm going? Is it an impact? Like what am I trying to create? So I just, 3 words, be, do, and create. And I just sort of sit in that space, and it really helps frame how I move forward and the action steps I need to take.
Wow, those really resonate with me. I'm actually going to write it down and put it on my wall so that I can follow that as well. Thank you so much. I really could spend so much time kind of chatting with you about this. landscape of leadership and where we're at, Marc. So I really appreciate you joining me today.
And this has been great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you. You're in an amazing space, and it's something that is necessary right now to support all the leaders that are out there. So these are wonderful opportunities. So thank you for allowing me to fill the space today.
My pleasure. And I really appreciate you sharing your entrepreneurial insights with Intuitive Performance and our subscribers. So for those of you who would like to learn more about Marc's business, we're going to provide the link to his company profile on the Elevate Business Podcast title page. Take good care. Thanks for listening to the Elevate Business Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the program. You can subscribe to future podcasts at intuitiveperformance.com, where you can also sign up for webinars and learn more about professional coaching and our facilitation solutions available to help fire up your whole person performance skills and drive actions for success. Until next time, stay true to you and take care of each other. We are all better too. Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuitive Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious.